Tell about these fishing playlists of yours.
We've got a fishing trip to Cabo San Lucas that we do every year. This, I think, will be our 8th or 9th one coming up. It started as just some guys that were down there and wanted to go fishing. We had a great time, and we're like, man, we should do this again the next year. And then it's just continued. And of course, when you're fishing, you have to have great music. And so one of the guys on our trip has a playlist. He's like, oh, we got to listen to this playlist. Well, it's like 4 songs long. And keep in mind, we're fishing like 14 hours a day. So we probably hear those 4 songs, 20 times.
Yeah.
So by the end of the day, Clark is telling me, dude, we got to do something different. And so I grab my iPad, see what's on it that night. I make a playlist, and everybody loves it, which after what we'd been through the previous day, it could have been the worst playlist ever.
Yeah.
And everybody would have still loved it. But yeah, so I start putting music on it. It's great. So then each year, it starts with the same playlist, and we just add to it. So as the
But you won't let anybody create
No.
their own now. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
What they do is they send me songs, and I'll listen to it. And if I think it is worthy of the AO, which we call it the always open, if it's AO worthy, then it gets on the playlist. So each year it just gets added to.
And so this trip of yours, from what I understand, is plane to boat to plane and
Yes.
kind of nothing in between.
Yes. Yeah, we go down there and flip-flops. Each of us have a backpack that has probably one other swimsuit in it. We go straight to the boat. Yeah, I love it because no cell phones, no anything. I mean, they're off, and you can just completely unplug. And we strategically put it right before training camp each year. So it's just kind of the perfect way to cap the summer, and it's fun, it's relaxing, a chance to get away, and now I don't know what we would do without it.
And what's this I hear about your dad actually having caught a bigger fish than you?
He has. I like to think I've been nice to him, letting him handle the big one, but he's got a bigger mai, they call it dorada down there, and a bigger blue marlin than I've caught, so he's got bragging rights.
Why do you feel you always unplug a little bit more when you're out of the country?
Something about having to take your passport out, stamping it, you're in another place. There's always a sense of me when I'm in the U.S. that even when we're away, that I still have to be on a little bit. And yeah, Mexico has just always been a place that I can, especially there, because I've always felt comfortable and it's fun. And yeah, for some reason, the second I get south of the border, I can let go of everything else.
So you have a place in Mexico. You have a favorite family place in New Mexico. Take me through an average day when on the family trip in New Mexico.
Average day, I get up really early there.
Which, that's what I heard,
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, you're on vacation.
Yeah, vacation to me is not sleeping in. It's just doing what I want to do and having my own time. I've got only so much time, and I want to be doing the things I want to do.
He's never going to go sit still on a beach all day and we want to be active and do something together. So.
And you're the same way?
Same way.
Okay.
I can sit by a pool and read a book for about 30 minutes, and then you start getting antsy. And so we like to do something together, actively, but away.
So yeah, I get up early, grab a quick breakfast, and then I get up there and fly fish by myself for a few hours. Probably nobody else within miles, and really, really peaceful, have a great time. Then I come back down, and then with the girls, the horseback ride, enjoy time with the girls. We'll typically go back out and explore a little bit after that. But yeah, that's kind of our routine.
And all sorts of animals are there.
Everything. We've run into, bison all over the place, bald eagles, wild turkeys, deer, elk. It's mountain lions, bobcats, you name it. We've seen quite a bit.
They've learned to touch the fish and, put the worm on the hook, and he's encouraged them to not be so girly and get dirty.
And do they like it?
They love it. They
Okay.
love it. They love just special time with him.
So again, no cell phones.
Zero.
No TVs.
Zero.
But 2 boats.
2 boats.
And why is that?
Probably the competitiveness of us as fishermen. So yeah, we'll get out there, we'll spread it out so that we can get more lines in the water, have more fun. A lot of times we'll have some little competition, whether it's me and the guys or the family.
I was going to say, even with the Caitlin, like it's two boats.
Oh yes. I think just to have some type of competitiveness with it, that's always fun for us. Somebody's going to have bragging rights at the end of the day.
Your brother, Garrett, 6 years younger, offensive coordinator at Clemson. I think he's in 8th grade or early in high school at the time. You guys are at the lake, and Garrett's trying to score a beer off his older brother. Take it from there.
I never thought I'd talk about this one on camera. Yeah, so me being the big brother, said, well, if you want a beer, you're gonna have to earn it. And so he said, what? And I said, well, you guys gotta take all your clothes off, jump in the lake, just see if they do it. They're in 8th grade. They'll probably do anything for a beer at that point. And so they do it. We toss them a couple of beers, and I think I decided to, I moved the boat a little bit, decided to take off, kind of left them there for a few minutes. And yeah, Caitlin stepped in and saved the day for them.
Because they had no clothes.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. Yeah, very big brother thing to do.
He said you were, you would be pretty rough on him.
We went at it. We did. It was funny when Garrett first came to Texas Tech and I was already coaching there. He lived with Caitlin and I for a while. And even at that point, I was probably 24, 25, so he's 18, 19. Like even then, the brother and us, we would still start to fight, or wrestle, just boys being boys. And Caitlin had only grown up around girls. That didn't go well for the first few months. We had to learn to tone it down.
One time we were out of town and he had some girls come over, I think, and they were baking some cookies, and he left our oven on for like 2 weeks. We came home to the oven still on, and Lincoln called Garrett and said, "What? Why is the oven on?" And Garrett was like, "Oh no."
Yes. Yeah, there was the movie around that time, You, Me, and Dupree, with Owen Wilson. And so we nicknamed him Dupree because, like, what disaster can he cause next?
In what ways are you guys competitive with each other?
Not much in football. I think there's just a different line there because it's our life and our profession, our livelihood.
And has it always been that way?
Pretty much. I mean, we would talk smack back and forth about each other as players, but once we've gotten in the coaching world, never really. It's probably been more supportive. Like anything else, golf, who's better looking, just anything.
So who's better at golf and who's better looking?
Well, he knows the truth. He knows the truth.
Okay, on a serious note, though, I heard it's kind of conscious decision on your end to not have had him on your staff because of the potential change in family dynamic that could create. Explain that.
Yeah, I learned very early on, I don't, as much as you can, I don't like mixing family and business. When I started thinking about really being a head coach and some of the difficult decisions at times you have to make, I didn't want having family members to cloud my judgment on doing what was best for my job. And it's a tough line to follow. It really is. And so, and I think for him, him carving his own path, right? And a lot of people, I think, assumed when he was younger that he was getting some of these opportunities just because he had a brother in the business. And he's obviously proven that he's, way, way more than that.
Lincoln has really made a point to just encourage and help Garrett, but never do something for him. Everything Garrett has done on his own has been his own, and Lincoln's just supported him. And
certainly then makes all the success he's having all the more satisfying. But hard conversation to have initially? We had one time where I really considered it, and it was a little tough to have the conversation. I mean, it not like it wasn't like it didn't shatter him by any stretch, and I think we both have agreed on it. He's confident in himself. He's known that once he got the opportunities, he was going to be able to do well. They're respectful of each other. They know how hard it is to have success. It's a hard job. Nobody's going to cheer harder for Garrett than him. But it doesn't matter. Fishing the bigger fish or the first fish or running or throwing or whatever it is, they're going to compete. So I understand you're kind of more like your mom, and that I've been told each of you guys could have been lawyers, and that Garrett's more like your dad. For sure. I was going to say, how fair
100%. Yeah, my dad and Garrett probably more easygoing. Me and my mom are the opposite. We're probably a little more type A, plan things out. Drives us crazy when my brother or my dad won't make a decision on something.
What do you think you learned from your mom, and what do you think you learned from your dad?
My mom is fiercely loyal, and she's not afraid to do what needs to be done in any situation, and I've always respected that about her. My dad is just brutally honest, always has been, treating people the right way, probably the more compassionate side, kind of the interpersonal relationships that you have and valuing them, appreciating what you have. So yeah, probably more the sentimental side with him.
West Texas ladies are tough. I understand you guys were far and away more scared of Mama Riley than Dad Riley.
By a mile.
How so?
Well, the whippings or spankings, however you can't do it anymore, right? But that's the perfect example. So me or my brother, either one of us get in trouble, we're younger and we're gonna get a whipping. We tried to con our way anyway into our dad being the one to give it. Because we had a deal literally, if he would give us a whipping, we would act like we were crying and hurting. The second he walked out of the room, we'd bust out laughing. But we had to hold it to make him think. Now my mom, we didn't have to pretend if we were crying. She was, yeah, hers had a little different force behind them, we'll put it that way.
How did you kind of go over the line in high school?
Oh, I painted a water tower once. That was probably one of the dumber things that I did.
At the time, did you get destroyed for it?
Yes and no. It was like the thing that you did that you're gonna pay for it right now. There was the legal side of it. They took us.
What happened?
We had a rivalry game. So we sneak out at 2 or 3 in the morning, drive to this rival town. Scale this water tower, which is, I don't know, a couple 100 feet high, which was kind of dumb. We cut the fence, we did everything. We saw in the movies, right? We thought we were like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible or something. Yeah, me and my buddy, we climb up to the top, spray paint the score from the game, climb down. Cop pulls us over on the way back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. It's like, what are y'all doing? And we totally lied. Hey, we knew a kid in town. Hey, we were over visiting him. We're just heading back late. He's like, all right, you guys, be safe going back to Muleshoe. I get home late, sneak back in the house. I hear a doorbell ringing. Next morning, so I get up, I go, it's the police officer from our hometown. He's like, were you in Friona last night? It's like, no. He's like, well, you need to come down to the station with us. And we're still, deny. Well, in walks in the cop from Friona that had pulled us over. And I'm like, all right, we did it. Done, you caught us. So the cop from Friona he was pissed, and understandably so. What we found out later was all the cops had done a big fundraiser to repaint that the year before.
Oh, no.
So he's pissed. And he's going through, you guys are gonna go, you're going to jail, you're gonna owe, this much money. My mom, our family owned a business that had a water tower. So my mom is pretty smart and pretty tough. She knew exactly what it cost to repaint that. And she came down with him right there and said, I know exactly what it cost. If you ever threaten my son again, and I was like, yes, it was a pretty cool moment. But yeah, okay.
What happened though when you got home? Was she still cool? Or
no, she was pissed.
Okay.
She was pissed. It took a while. It took a little while for her to settle over it. People in the town probably liked it because the rivalry was pretty heated, so it's probably got a little bit of a legendary status to it. What's so funny too is the next year we play them, my mom never said anything to me about winning a game ever in any sport we ever did, and still doesn't even now. Only time ever before we play them my senior year, and it was a big deal because all that had happened, it became so public. She told me before the game, she said, you better win this game. Yeah.
And?
Oh, we did. Yeah, we did. We took care of business, so, yeah. She might not have let me in the house.
I heard you were kind of a sore loser back in the day.
I was and still am.
Are you?
I'm not as outward with it now, but yeah, I was way more outward with it.
Like, what would you do then?
I couldn't, it like hurt me so bad. Like I remember when I first started playing basketball, little dribblers, I was a fourth or fifth grader. I had a chance to like make a layup to win the game and contested, but I missed it last shot of the game as time's expired. I mean, I remember being just like destroyed. Very next game, a couple days later, I hit a shot from just in front of half court at the buzzer to win. And so the opposite. And I remember like after that thinking like that was so much fun to hit that almost half court shot to win the game. But the high of that did not even compare to the low of not getting it done. Like the high was here and the low was just down in the depths. I've tried to push myself to enjoy it more, kind of the journey and the ride and when the good things are there. But you can't change who you are, and yeah, the losses still sting me. Just don't show it as much now.
Not that it's more fun, but he's gotten much better.
How did it used to be?
He was just very quiet, never ugly, just quiet. He wanted to process in his head all that happened.
How will they affect you today?
Go through periods. I mean, I think I want to get into the why right away so that I can define it, but I typically have got to just separate myself from people like after a loss. I don't want to be around anybody. I mean, I just need my time to get away, to blow off steam, to unwind a little bit, and then start the process of figuring out why and how we're going to do better.
Just kind of wallow in self-pity?
Yeah, maybe not that horrible. I think a lot of times I start writing. I'm not a journaler, like I don't journal every day, but a lot of times like when I'm going through something tough, it helps me to kind of put some of my thoughts down and maybe define it as opposed to wallowing in self-pity, right? You know, like it helps you start to find the track back. And so that's always helped me.
And how often do you write?
Typically only in the bad times.
Okay. And what do you do with those writings?
I save them. I kind of use them throughout the week. A lot of times I'll save them and I'll look at them like before the season starts, like even the next year. It's kind of a re-motivator for me of what we're trying to do or remind you of a lesson that maybe you learned that you can apply and not have to go through the same thing again that year.
I understand how to give him space and get through that easier. But also your girls, our kids, you know, for him, we lose a game, that's still daddy. They want to win, but they know that's not the definition of who he is. Mm-hmm. And so when you have two little girls that are loving on you, and you know, it makes it a little easier.
What role does Caitlin play in your life?
Oh, a lot. I mean, for me to do the job that I do, it puts a lot on her. And
like what?
Well, the first most important thing is raising our girls. I try to be present as much as I can. I don't, outside of work and being with my family, I don't do much else, but I still get taken away from a lot. And so, I mean, that's certainly job number one.
Do you feel this job allows you to be the type of father you aspire to be?
I think in my commitment level, yes, but it still pulls you away from things that you can't get back. And
which is hard.
Oh, it's the worst part of the job. It's those times when you feel like you're in that position where you got to choose either job or family, and that's like, I got people dependent on me both ways, and in a weird, you know, my family depends on me doing my job well, you know, but my family also depends on me on being a good father and a good husband, and that's sacrifice a lot of us make in this business, and we've tried to find ways to balance that. And if you don't have a spouse that is really in it and understands it and fully committed to it, I don't know how you would do it well.
So what do you remember from how the two of you met in the first place?
Just two small town West Texas schools, so we're within 45 minutes, everybody in the town next to you. He was the quarterback and he played basketball. He was a big sports guy in their town on their teams, and so I knew who he was, he knew who I was, and we just kind of met and talked.
But then it wasn't until you went to college that you start hitting on her through AOL Instant Messenger.
That's right. That was the older version of sliding into DMs, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. We connected on Instant Messenger, and she had a sister that was going to school there at the time, and so was in town some there in Lubbock, and connected, and rest is history.
One of his roommates, I think, started messaging one night, and he pretended like he was the roommate. Maybe it was Lincoln, I'm not sure, one of them. And he asked me to go out on a date, and we went to see Sweet Home Alabama and to Olive Garden in Lubbock. And that was it.
And after dating 2 years, though, you guys break up.
Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking then?
I kind of deep down didn't think the breakup would last very long.
She said the same thing.
Yeah, I kind of doubted that it was like one of those things where maybe like you take that break, like, all right, are we really like going forward? Because forward from here gets pretty serious pretty quick.
Because she knew you were the one at that point, I believe.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I would say we both felt that way at that time.
He said, at this point you're young, but you've dated for a little while. You're either going to move forward or don't waste time. So took a little break. It didn't last long.
Explain how it works where you both pick a wedding date and a church before you guys are ever even engaged.
Casual conversation that you kind of both know it's heading that direction, and how would you do it? And with the business I was in, you only got certain times of the year. Like you can go look now. Coaches are gonna get married and have children in, like, if there's a hit chart on it, right? You're gonna see the marriages in late June and July, just crazy. Like the people on our staff, almost everybody's anniversary is in July. It's
really?
Fun. Oh yeah. It's the only time.
So when I was talking to your brother Garrett the other day, I'm like, what are some of the toughest things that Lincoln's gone through, and how did he get through it? And he's like, well, two have happened recently, one in OU departure and two in Dave Nichol. Mm-hmm. What impact did Dave have on your life?
Yeah, he's the original one that opened the door for me at Texas Tech. And when I first got there as a walk-on quarterback, he was the young coach that took me off to the side and really taught me everything. And then when I became a young coach, kind of got me started there as well. And he was just as important as any figure in my coaching life.
A young 18-year-old isn't going to go to the head coach or to somebody else, and Dave was kind of his spot. So I think that was important to Lincoln when he started, that he's always really invested in young guys and treated them the way Dave treated him.
Dave loved Southern California. He was single. This was just his dream to come coach here and kind of back with all of his guys again. And all of a sudden you get the news that he's sick, and it's just just the highest of highs to the lowest, one of the just sickest things I've ever seen.
Because you guys are on a plane for the holidays, and I think Dave says something to your wife where you realize he needs to go to a doctor. Kind of take it from there. Dave
tells us that he hasn't been feeling great. He had a few other medical complications in the past, but
he had Crohn's.
Crohn's,
disease,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, so he had always dealt with a few things, but he just described a few things he was going through that was a little odd and unique, and thought he needed to see somebody. And we got our team doctor involved, who was phenomenal with him the whole way through. And then we got the news not long after that that it was cancer.
And I think Caitlin was his emergency contact, and I guess the doctors couldn't get in touch with Dave for 10 hours or something of one period, so they call her.
Yes.
How did you guys find out the severity of it?
It was progressive. He needs just one break to go his way, one thing to come back and say, you got it. Here's the path forward to recovery, how we're going to treat it. And it felt like every step was just not the news that you wanted to hear. And
Was it just caught too late?
Yeah, caught too late, and I think complicated by Crohn's and some of the things that he had before.
And compounded by COVID.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Somebody close to you passing away is never easy, especially never easy when they're young and have a lot of life left to live. And then I think you add on that, he lived here with us. The last several months of his life.
He didn't need to be by himself, that we could move him into our house and help facilitate care for him.
Why was it important to you guys to do that?
It's what you would do for anybody that you loved. It was an honor to spend his last days with him and to love on him and show him, he was so good to us for so long and we loved him.
How did you guys handle it when he was here?
Just kind of like he was another member of the family. I am thankful that if he was going to go through it, he was here with us, because there was a lot of time that we had together that we wouldn't have had. The whole time you're like he's one of the best dudes, and you're like, why would this happen to him? And I still haven't come to terms with that. I'm like, why not me? And I still, for a dude like him, I don't know. Some of the things in life, there's not an explanation for.
I know there's a really special night, though, before you flew him home, where everybody came together here. Tell about that evening.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was, we'd all been at the office. We invited a lot of people over. His family, his brother was in town and his wife. So they were here. A lot of the coaches that knew Dave, that had worked with him, everybody came over. And it was like one of those days, like it just energized Dave. He wasn't eating very much at that point, and he ate like a Viking. It was awesome. Like he was just eating, and everybody was having a good time. It was like we kind of all forgot about it for several hours that night. We're laughing, joking, telling old stories. He was a master impersonator, like one of the funniest human beings. So he was just running the whole room, and we took a great picture out back, and Caitlin has since put that in all the guys' offices that were a part of it.
And I know Caitlin was stressing about the day the flight was, back home, but obviously timing worked out perfectly. Why was it so important to you guys to make that happen?
Yeah, that was huge. I knew he wanted to get back home. He wanted to see his dad. And certainly his dad wanted to see him. And we had a sense that there was a real sense of urgency behind this. And thank goodness we did. If we wouldn't have done it or done it any later, we wouldn't have made it, because he ended up passing away the next morning.
Caitlin says that period of your guys' life was the hardest you guys have ever had. Going through that with Dave gave you guys more purpose amid the OU exit, and I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Going through the deal with OU, which I get it was our decision, right? We caused it. I understand that. Was very, very difficult. For sure one of the toughest things we've been through. But then you put that up next to going through that with somebody who's fighting for their life. In some ways, it compounded the tough things you're going through, but I think took our mind off of it. And yeah, it's like, we're okay, right? There's levels to what people are going through, and some time passed, over a year now. I don't know that I've completely processed it yet. It's still at times doesn't seem real.
Life is short, and love on the ones you love and take care of the people you can, and it was an honor. It was time that we are thankful that we got to have with him.
The nastiness of the OU exit. Caitlin got emotional on the phone, talking about how the hardest part for her was just watching people assassinate your character. What was most difficult for you to take?
I live in that world a little bit more. Certainly there were some extremes there. I always feel like the truth will come to light. And I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, but I know who I am too. And that of all the stuff that happened, that got to me the least. You kind of grow thick skin. Some of it's the way the game has changed. The timelines now with recruiting, early signing period, transfer portal, You take the same situation 10 years earlier. Number one, you don't have to do it the day after the last game of the season because there's time. There's not a sense of urgency on, oh, well, there's a signing class or there's this transfer portal. And then as far as with the players and players that come with you, it's a difficult decision. I mean, it's like you put yourself in the position of, do I want players to leave the place that I was at? Absolutely not. One of the things I told the players when I stood up there is I think every one of you should stay here and do it. And we actually, behind the scenes, people probably wouldn't believe it now, we helped keep a lot of players there that are still there. But if you have a player that you recruited, knew their family, you've been in there with, and he says, Coach, I want to go with you, do you say no? Do you like say, oh, you were good enough to come with me to this place, but now I won't take you here? Like it's not easy. And on top of it, I think the weight of all the people that decision affected, right? The players at OU, the players at USC, all of the staff members, whether they're the ones that came out here with us or went to a different spot or stayed at OU, their families, their kids. Like, I mean, you're feeling just the weight of all that, because that is unless you've been in that position, like I can't even really describe what that feels like. And the move was, in this day and age, a little bit unprecedented. So I didn't have like a great roadmap to go off of in terms of how do you do this. I felt some of the backlash, and I said some things through it that added to it. I responded. I shot back a few times, and I shouldn't have. And
but not as severe as one would think based on some of what was coming your guys' way.
Yeah, but you know, I'm the coach. You know, it's my job. I'm not a fan, and you know, I could have done better. There's no question about it.
How so?
Just by, I think, just staying away from some of the things that I said or some of the topics that I got into because I was emotional and angry about some of the things that were happening, and not even as much the things they were saying about me, but just some of the things that happened to the staff that we had there and their families. I let it get to me. There were better ways to handle it than me firing back something in the media or in an interview, and that added to it. But I told my wife and the couple of people I confided in the night we made the decision, I told them it's going to be bad, and a couple of people were like, well, it'll be, you know, a few hours, few days, it'll blow by. And I said, no, y'all don't. I've lived in these shoes. Like, it's going to be bad.
When do you actually make the decision?
9, 10 in the morning that day. But we were sitting there.
This is after the season.
Yeah, after the last game. And we got home and had to talk with USC and had a long talk about it all through the night. Didn't sleep any.
It's crazy how that works, though, too, because presumably, you know, it's not as if your agent talks to them the first time the day after. So there are conversations that are taking place, but how little time then there actually is to decide. Why does it work that way?
Yeah, I mean, I had 8 hours. And you understand it from the school's perspective. You know, in this case, their job had been open for months. Would I have wanted to have longer? Yeah, absolutely. I'm thankful I got to tell the team. I'm thankful I got to tell our AD. But there's more people I would have liked to have talked to in person and had more time and had more time to think about it. It wouldn't have changed my decision, but it would have, you know, it would have probably helped the exit.
A couple things that I just wanted to ask you about, just based on the conversation with Caitlin. She told me that you guys had to have armed security because somebody broke into your house.
Yeah.
What happened there?
Yeah, I had multiple. They had a lot of different people trying to break into the house the days after it happened. And 95% of the fans and people out there at Oklahoma or anybody else are great. But you typically always have that percentage that at times take it too far. Obviously, this was one of those instances.
I heard you got packages and then they got your 9-year-old's number. What was the scariest part for you?
Yeah, just my family's safety. I didn't care about the house. I didn't care about anything else, just their safety. And We thought we were gonna, because we wanted the girls to be able to finish out school, just because the semester was almost over. And as that stuff transpired, we said, no, we got to get them the hell out of here as fast as we can.
You also, though, had people who you respected, who would say one thing to you privately, who would then go out publicly and say something completely different.
I guess on the emotional side of it, past my family, the toughest thing for me was the relationships that you had built that you thought maybe at some point went past you just being the football coach there, and you realize did not go past that. So, but that's part of what we do. Nobody's shedding a tear for us. We get to experience some things a lot of people don't, and that's a little bit of the price we pay.
Explain kind of the regaining of the anonymity that you had lost.
It's been one of the just best parts of this job, especially having young children. I was extremely conscious, and at times probably overconscious of my first run as a head coach, of kind of always being in that public eye. I got to where I wouldn't go out to eat.
The other day, he was coming home from the office and he said, "Do you want to go to Trader Joe's?" And I said, "Okay, let's go." Just wanted to get out and go to the grocery store. And
but that
he loves
floored you.
It floored me that was just something that he wanted to do. That was nothing that we would do before. He loves what he does, absolutely to his core. But there's a part that just wants to go get gas and go to the grocery store.
I love coaching. I love all the things I get to do. I don't like the not your celebrity, but that part of it, right? I've always been a little uncomfortable with that part of it, and that was a huge selling point for me here was, we're not the only show in town. And there's a great article that somebody sent me right before I took this, and I remember reading it when it came out. They interviewed the head coaches at major schools at the time, and it was like, what do you do when you have time to get away? They get to Pete Carroll. That's when Pete was here, and Pete said, well, I don't have to go anywhere. I can go out to eat that night, and nobody even cares if I'm in there because they're looking over at George Clooney and that person from Friends. He said, when you coach in the small college town at a major deal, you are George Clooney or the person from Friends. The advantages here for a coach, especially a coach that has young children, fit us. And I think I'm more relaxed. I think life outside of the office is been much more normal here, and because of that, I think more normal for our children, which is most important.
Because it gives the children more of an opportunity to kind of flourish outside of being Lincoln Riley's kids.
Yeah, I remember we would go on vacation, go to a restaurant, and I'd be looking at them like, do they not even know how to behave in a restaurant? Caitlin would look at me like, we don't ever go to restaurants. Like, how do you want them to know? And kind of hit me. It's like, all right, yeah, now I'm holding back, and that's like stunning them in some way, and that's obviously not a good thing.
How have you seen it impact the kids?
I think they see me more relaxed. I think they're very happy. I think they don't feel like they have to live different than their friends, and that's everything to me.
So shortly after you get to USC, you have a good parking spot. It's a street over from your office. Mm-hmm. Take me through the detailed explanation you gave in advocating for a better one.
It's about a 5-minute walk. I park, and it's a good parking spot. Urban campus,
life.
All that. Yeah, exactly. I can walk through the most beautiful campus in the country to my office. So Clark, our DFO, I'm talking to him one day, and we're going through some things, and I said, hey, can you talk to them about my parking spot? He's like, what do you mean? You got a great spot. And I said, well, it's a 5-minute walk. And he's looking at me like, are you kidding me? And I said, I know what you're thinking, but understand, so I'm walking back and forth each day. That's 10 minutes a day. All right, that's over an hour a week. All right, that's over 50 hours, all right, a year that I'm simply just walking back and forth to my car. Not to mention if you go back multiple times in a day for whatever, I'm either wasting that time where I could be with my family or I could be doing something to help us win. And he's like, all right, well, when you put it that way, it makes some sense. So now my walk's like 15 seconds. So we improve the math.
He will get up insanely early, take value of every time just so that he could be home to put the girls to bed. You know, if it means less sleep for him, he doesn't care. He's gonna make sure that time is not wasted.
Are there other examples of how that time allocation comes out in you, or like similar scenarios where you've done the same thing?
We invested pretty quickly during the season in having a driver to get me back and forth to campus.
Because I was going to say, my argument was off camera. Well, you live a half hour plus from campus.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
When I started looking at the investment there, you start talking, now you're talking over an hour a day, every single day that you come home, and that adds up. And so, yeah, for me, literally, I walk out of the office, and for 15 seconds, I'm not working. I get in my car, I work till the second I pull up into the driveway, and then same thing back. And it's made any drive kind of non-existent. It's all productive until I get home.
And you said the helicopter landing pad on the tennis courts under
That's
construction.
phase two, yeah.
What's this I hear about the memory and math skills from your grandma?
She was way smarter than me, like unbelievably gifted. Like even in her later age, she could remember every person in the family and their kids and their kids' kids and it was amazing. She was like an encyclopedia, and then what she could remember, and then her math skills. She could always do math without writing anything down, always.
In the photographic memory with regards to football, your brother says it's a thing with you, and I know it came to light in your old local radio show in Oklahoma where they'd have you recall plays, but do you believe that to be true?
To a point, I remember a lot more than I don't.
He might not know the code to get into the house or the garage or anything like that. It's not that kind of memory, but his photographic memory, especially around football, is insane.
What don't you remember when it comes to football?
Not much. I mean, not
anything?
Much. I don't say anything. Could I right here go and like recite every single play that I've called in every single game? No. But if you ask me just a question, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to get it right.
The way he sees something and the way I see something are like two different languages. I watch the game, we win, yay, hooray, we get ready for the next one, and he is still just processing and thinking about that play 4 games ago or what it did. It's just, his brain's incredible.
Like the second you say a game, like I can already start to go back and remember like the first play of the game and like what happened and like when we scored, and like I can, through all the games and all the years, I've always been able to do it.
And how far back does that go?
Probably as long as I've been coaching. I don't remember the ones as a player as much as I do the ones from when I've coached. I'll give you something from probably every game I've coached.
Your second game at East Carolina as offensive coordinator.
That was Memphis. Yeah, Memphis.
And what happened?
We had a pretty good game. We tempoed them the entire game. Had some big plays. We had a big quick screen to Dwayne Harris early in the game that popped.
Davis finds Harris again. He's breaking through the middle. He's at midfield.
But yeah, I remember that was kind of when tempo was just first getting going, and we just tempoed them up and down the field. Yeah, I mean, I can right now remember several plays from it.
Do you remember what the score was?
No, I don't remember the scores as often. I could tell you if it was close, if we won by a lot, if it was high scoring, low scoring. I don't get that wrapped up into like all the stats and all of it. It's more like the art, right? Like more like just the plays and kind of how they happened and the game situations.
How would you assess the current state of college football?
It's still great. It is a great sport. I think it's getting so many people right now are too caught up on all the changes that are happening. Like, it's still a tremendous sport. It's in transition right now, and you take some things that in their own right in a 10-year period or a 50-year period would be landmark changes, and all these have happened in the matter of a couple of years, and you put them all together and it's been very unpredictable. I feel like the next 5 to 10 years it's going to continue to really evolve heavily, and you feel like there'll be some stability after that, but I don't feel like we're very close to stability in some of the areas that have changed so much, like the transfers and like NIL and like conference realignment and just all that's going on right now.
Where does your gut tell you that the transitions in the game will eventually net out?
Well, I think as we start to get some real data on what's working and what's not, because that's what'll happen. Right now there's no data, so everybody's just going off in all these different directions on what they think's right. When we start to see, what is the real success rate of these transfers? Are these transfers graduating? I feel like that'll level off.
How so?
Well, I think right now it's just the cool, easy idea to do. But you also see the thousands of guys in the portal right now that don't have a home, that left a home and a scholarship that they had. You see a lot of guys that are going places and not graduating. And for every good story right now, there's probably 2 or 3 that are not successful.
What do you think of the transfer portal?
It's good and bad, right? There are absolutely situations where it has benefited guys. And listen, we've had a lot of the guys that have benefited from it as much as anybody. There's too many people that's the answer when something doesn't go right. And I think that is a problem.
Because you as coach also need to be able to give tough love to a player and appropriately punish them or whatever the situation might call for without the player upping and leaving, because that doesn't really, at the end of the day, help anybody.
Yeah, if you sit with any recruit when they're coming out and you say, do you want me to coach you to the best of my ability and push you to get everything out of you? Every kid and every parent's going to say, absolutely, yes, of course. If I can't do that, or if I do that, I know that you might leave and that keeps me from doing that, then that helps nobody. At the end of the day, it still comes back and puts responsibility on us of who you're bringing into the program, and are you bringing in guys that are going to run at the first sight of adversity, or guys that are going to hang in there and only make a move if the situation is just flat out not working.
How do you view NIL?
Some the same way. I think there's some real positives to it. It's never made sense to me why these guys could not earn money. I mean, every other human on the planet can earn money. Every other college student can earn money.
And everybody else connected with them in the
Absolutely.
football.
Absolutely. Schools have made money, conferences have made money, TVs have made money, coaches have made money. So why can these guys, not get compensated? Now, the age-old question was, well, of course it's gonna seep into recruiting. Everybody is such competitors, you almost got to protect us from ourselves. I think everybody knows that it's gone too far, fully knowing that when they opened it up, especially when the NCAA did it with no guidelines, which, in my opinion was a pretty big mistake, you were going to have to try to walk some of it back to get it to where it's what it's intended, which then benefit off their name, image, and likeness.
What do you think needs to happen?
I wish I had a great answer. You've got to try to find a way to take it out of recruiting. But that's going to be really, really difficult in this age of, where people are going to lawyer up, or there's antitrust rules and all the things going on legally. It's going to be a long road to walk that back to maybe get it to the ideal spot. And do you ever get it back to there? I hope so, but I don't know.
Which, in fairness, only benefits you being in LA, but says a lot that you're saying that for the betterment of the game.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think just the purists and all of us that love the game, we want it to end up in the right place. And you balance that between all of us are, I think, feeling that constant push and pull of you feel your responsibility there, but also your responsibility to make your current situation, your current team and program the best you can. I mean, that's what they hire you for.
If you were running college football, the immediate changes you would make would be what?
Yeah, one CEO or commissioner. I think you basically go to an NFL model. The NFL has wildly succeeded. We've certainly crossed over into that world. You re-outline all of these conferences, which is wild to say for a head coach of a team that's getting ready to go to another conference next year, but I think you re-outline that. You have one head, you have a salary cap, and then they can go earn outside of that however they want to, just like an NFL player can. I don't know how long, I don't know how fast, but I feel like some form or fashion of that is is coming.
Your early coaching days. Take me into whatever you remember from that conversation with Coach Leach, where he's trying to essentially get you to retire as a player to join his staff that you were playing for.
Yeah, I was kind of blown away that I didn't know him that well yet. I'd only been playing for him for that year.
And kind of insulted, right?
Leaving it, not during it, I wasn't. During it, I was just like, man, the head coach is like bringing this walk-on quarterback in and he spent like 2 hours with me, and he's taking me through. I mean, he's selling me now like I'm a dang recruit. I mean, I was kind of just shocked. And then I left it, and I got a little insulted, kind of angry about it, because a competitor in you wants to still play. And so I did what I do in tough times. I got away, drove down to our family's lake, came back kind of with a changed approach to it.
You ever think about how things would be different had you not made that?
Sure. Yeah. No, I do. The injury probably helped me come to terms with it that I had in high school on my throwing shoulder. If not for that, I probably would have said, no, I'm going to keep playing, or I'm going to transfer and go do something else.
Because you couldn't throw right
Not like I could. And I'm not saying I would have been an NFL quarterback had I not got hurt. Surgeries weren't quite as efficient as they are today. There was that realization in the back of my mind, I knew that I didn't have what I had before. And I think that probably helped me make the decision to jump into coaching.
When you took that job, I read somewhere that you never went to another frat party. And you cut out almost all your friends except Caitlin.
Yeah, because by that point I had a lot of great friends on the team. I was with those guys all the time. Those were my friends. I had a couple of friends outside of it, but not many. And yeah, it's like when I did it, I was like, when I do something, I go, and I did. I never hung out with those guys again.
Why not?
Well, because I just felt I was on the other side of it, and here I'm going to be in there with these guys here, and their futures discussed or this or that, and I never wanted to put myself in a position where I compromised that. It's like some of the hard things you do now. It's part of the job, and it's necessary. And if it's what we got to do, it's what we got to do.
Garrett says you learned just about everything from Coach Leach. What did he teach you?
A lot, yeah. Way past football. He really helped. The responsibility he gave me early on really helped me get ready to become a head coach. I didn't even think about the time, but every schedule that we did, every bowl schedule, every practice schedule, I remember when we would play a bowl game, we would get the bowl assignment, that Monday Sunday or Monday after the last game. And he and I'd be in there till 3 or 4 in the morning putting together the bowl schedule. And I'm like, at the time, I was like, well, I'm just helping, doing whatever. But then all of a sudden, fast forward a few years later, and I'm in charge of all that. And it was, I'll say easy, but it was I've been doing this forever. And that's, I think, a lot of the things that head coaches can struggle with in the beginning is they've coached a position or a unit or they've called plays, but they've never had to do all of that. Well, Mike hated doing all that stuff. So he gave it to people and let them do it. And so, yeah, just.
But you probably didn't recognize when you're in it how rare that opportunity was.
No clue. I was just so focused on just trying to help the team and prove my worth there that, yeah, I had zero perspective.
Brutal hours though, right?
Brutal. Because he's a night owl. He was a complete night owl. So I learned pretty quickly, do my classes in the morning, and then he'd get to the office between 1 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then stay all night and get up and do it again the next day. And nothing about Mike was typical. My first position meeting with Mike as a quarterback, he put in a dip of Copenhagen and proceeded for the next hour and a half to talk about all the different types of dip, the different cuts, how they affect you, all this and that. And
which he's since called bullshit on. But
well, it's completely true.
Okay, yeah.
I have 4 other QBs in there that will happily verify, but you just never know where those could go. So you had to have, and Mike was smart this way, he had people behind the scenes that were gonna supplement.
Tell about your Valentine's Day dinner with Mike Leach.
It was kind of a fork in the road. I'd been an assistant off the field or unpaid for a long time. This was the job was open, and that was if I'm going to get hired and be a full-time coach here, this is the one. And if not, I got to go restart somewhere else. It was pivotal, and Mike never did anything fast. And So we're, just hanging on for I felt like months for
Really?
him to make this decision. I mean, every night, I can hardly even go to sleep. I'm just like, is this going to happen? Is it not? And yeah, one night he grabbed me before we had a late night team workout there that we would occasionally do. And we were up there and he said, hey, let's go grab some dinner. And he told me he was hired me. And it was kind of like, yeah, it still gives me chills to this day.
What about it still affects you?
Well, had he chose the other way, who knows? I didn't have many ins into this business. I wasn't a big time college player. You start thinking about all right, if this doesn't work, what are you going to do next? I was 23 years old at the time, and the way things were going at Texas Tech, the receiver coach at Texas Tech, because of how much we were throwing the football, was a fairly prominent position. He could have gotten a lot of way more qualified people than me. And so I certainly didn't feel like a shoe-in by any stretch. And so, yeah, it's one of those moments you feel like my life and my family's life has an opportunity to be a little bit different based on what had just happened.
And what was his role in you getting that first OU job?
He had a role. He definitely did. Bob was, looking for a new OC, and Mike had taken the Texas Tech job from Oklahoma, and so they had a great relationship. And it was really, two people really helped. Mike really helped a lot. Calling Coach Stoops, telling him, what he thought about me, and then actually, funny, I actually had interviewed with Kentucky prior to that, where Mark Stoops was the head coach. And as we went through, Mark and I agreed it just wasn't the right fit, exactly what he was looking for. But when Bob had the job opened up, Mark called Bob and told him that he knew what Bob was looking for and thought that I would be somebody that he ought to take a look at.
USC today. First, obviously some news recently. How did you find out the AD was out?
I got some calls from upper administration that morning before it happened, and just to give me a heads up. And listen, I've been through enough things now. Not much phases me. It's certainly an unfortunate situation because I am appreciative because Mike was instrumental in bringing us here. But I also know what's building here, both in football and beyond. And we're going to get a great leader in here and pair up and go to work.
I read one of the reasons for OU's success was the stability between president and AD. How important do you think that is for a program in terms of having success long term?
It's really important. That was, I think, especially in Bob's tenure, that was really important. He had the same two people there for 18 years. I had 3 presidents in 5 years at OU. Not to say any of them were bad or anything like that. It's just stability is important as long as you have the right people there. If you are not aligned, you have no shot. It don't matter how big your stadium is. It don't matter how nice your facilities are. You got no shot, in my opinion, not at this highest level.
What do you think about all the talent at USC, just in athletics across all the different sports? It's kind of crazy to think about some of the people that are there or will be there soon.
I'm excited because a lot of us, the head coaches, we talk and have got a great relationship, and I think we all see how what's happening in this sport affects that sport, and just the overall culture and kind of vibe. It feels to me kind of like it did years back. I first kind of got enamored with SC, during Pete's career here and what they were doing. And I just remember watching, thinking, there's nowhere else like that. You can turn on the TV, watch a great program in the South or a great program in the East or anywhere else, and yeah, it's fun to watch. But man, that scene was just different. You could just tell it was the kind of the unicorn of the sport, and there's signs of it being like that again.
For you, the impact that has is what?
It allows you to offer up to your players, your coaches, the families a different experience. Let's face it. Part of what we do is sales, right? You're selling people on what their experience can be like and how it can change their lives ultimately. And when you're selling a product, I don't care what sales you're in, when you're selling a product that's different than other products, you have a huge advantage. The thing that's interesting is the advantages here are advantages that money can't buy.
Yeah.
You know, they're advantages that other places, no matter the resources and all the great things they have, they can't duplicate. And that's what's so unique about this place.
What do you think's the dynamic between you and Caleb that is responsible for the shared success?
Probably equally competitive, committed to the game, not afraid. I think we've got a good enough relationship now that we're able to be brutally honest with each other.
And that means what?
Well, occasionally, you know, as a coach, you're worried about a player's confidence or how's he going to take this or that, or a player, sometimes you're worried about telling a coach how you really feel because you're worried, well, maybe he'll think less of me, or I just don't feel like I can have that conversation or be honest. And neither one of them are good in terms of getting the player where you need to get them. And there's very little that we don't talk about. We can be completely upfront and honest with each other. We want to push each other to be better. When we get in there, he's not the guy that, you know, is a Heisman Trophy winner. He's the quarterback that needs to get better, and I'm the coach that needs to coach him better. And that's just kind of always been our mentality. And then I think we're not afraid to take chances and go for everything, right? And coming out here, feeling like we, you know, when we rejoined, of like what we know we can accomplish together. I think we share that, and not scared about that. We're excited, and we want to lead. We want to lead this program there.
Heisman?
Who knows, man? Who knows? It's not the team awards, and those are the most important thing to me. But I also know that it's a really, really special, you know, group to be a part of, and to see like 3 different guys, 3 different families, 3 different teams, like to see that happen, because it is so rare. It's been fun to be along for the ride.
I was reading a story when it was Baker Mayfield that you were coaching going back to when he was a walk-on, and you had to tell him he wasn't the right guy to be starter. How do you handle those conversations? Probably
Like the walk-on I was. I didn't get all the fluffy stories and the recruiting pitches and all that, right? That probably some of that comes back to my dad's honesty and my mom's willingness to do whatever it took and not being afraid to have the tough conversations.
Same with regards to punishment? Mm-hmm. Because I know you had to punish, you know, Baker once.
Yep.
How do you figure out what's appropriate in those situations and then how to articulate it?
Yeah, I think you got to take what the public and everybody else thinks out of it and just do what you know is right. And what you know is fair, and not worry about, especially in terms of punishment, not worrying about the game, not worry about anything competitive, just do what's right in that instance, and be able to compartmentalize the rest of it. And yeah, having the conversations, tough conversations, like tension-filled conversations, they don't bother me. Clark would actually say that I enjoy them. It doesn't.
Do you?
Probably in some sick way, yeah.
Okay, explain that.
I don't know. I enjoy uncomfortable conversations. I just do. Because I think most of the time, uncomfortable conversations are where shit's getting done. And it probably goes back to my efficiency. You can have the nice, comfortable conversations where everybody just bebopping along and nothing gets done. Let's have a result off of this.
Have there been times, though, when you knew you needed to say something in a certain situation and you let how uncomfortable it was get the best of you, so you didn't end up conveying what needed to get conveyed?
Yeah, I did. I would say my earlier years as a head coach at OU, I did too much. You know, you're new, you're kind of figuring this out on the fly. You don't want to overstep your bounds. You can make the mistake too of not being aggressive enough and not being direct enough. And I've definitely become more direct the more I've been in this role. And again, just my mindset is what's the best thing for the program, and whatever it takes to do that, I'm willing to do it.
I have heard that you will retire young. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm on the clock. That is, I don't know how I'll feel, you know, in a few years when I became a head coach so young. I mean, you become a head coach at 33. My mindset was always like, if I can make it to 50. Because there is other things I want to do. I don't even know exactly what they are. I don't know that I have the list right now, but I just know there's other things I want to do and experience. And I may have a different tune when I get to 49, but I don't care a lot about like legacy. I don't care in terms of like how many games you won, or I've never cared about that. Whenever I'm, you know, on my deathbed, I don't think I'm going to give a damn about how many games I won, you know, or if I have a statue.
My gut is that will retire early for sure.
And why?
Just because to him, I don't think that there's a tangible goal of I need to win this many championships or accomplish this much to be successful, and I can't retire until that point. Our time is valuable to him, and so he wants to travel and do things with the girls when they're growing up for things that, you know, he feels like he's maybe lost out on.
There's a funny story my Sunday school teacher told, and I was in 6th grade, so I just started organized football for the first time. He's like, well, are you loving football? I was like, yeah, it's like the greatest thing ever. You know, I'm talking, she goes, well, what do you think about, you know, like the band being there and the cheerleaders and all the fans and like all that? And fairly politically incorrect what I'm about to say, I realize that, but I was at 6th grade and I said, you know what, I really don't care about any of all that. Like, I love the game. I love to compete, and if they're there, that's great, and if they're not, that's okay. Like, that's not why I love it. I've been able to do a lot of really cool things, and hopefully a lot more to come with this job and this game, but also know it's taken me away from a lot of things that I don't want to be there at the end, and I didn't make up for it. And so I maybe in the next phase of my life, maybe that's what I'll get a chance to do.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, this was fun. Absolutely. You got it.